Hi, thanks so much for taking some time to listen to the new Soul Priority update. Weather's beginning to get warm here in Chicago, and I am so ready. Well, last update we began something new. I began giving you a taste of work in the light. Now, we began by looking at one of the most important aspects of leadership, which is to provide a healthy culture. Now, a healthy culture not only allows for productivity, but it creates an environment in which team members can grow and flourish. And to discover what comprises a healthy culture, we began by looking at a song written by King David of the Old Testament. In his song, we call it Psalm 23, David describes what God provides to help him to flourish. The last time we talked about being amply supplied, to supply what's needed to accomplish a task. As a leader, you don't give someone a goal, a projected a thing to accomplish, and then not give them the resources to help them. That would make no sense. In fact, what we want to do is the opposite: give them everything they need so that they feel a sense of accomplishment and support from their leadership. Well, this time you're going to be really surprised at what God reveals as possibly the second most important element of a healthy environment. Are you ready? It's rest. It's not work, it's rest. David writes right out of the bag. He says, He makes me lie down. No, God intentionally made David rest. It's not a rest based on fatigue or exhaustion, therefore, but it's something that represents more of a pattern or a rhythm of rest. Now, God always meant rest to be a rhythm or a cycle. One of the Ten Commandments requires a Sabbath day, a day of rest every seventh day. In his grand scheme for Israel, God even puts in place an agricultural rest. Every 7 years, he had the land to rest, and he promised them, he says, I'll prove it to you. If you rest that seventh year, I will make your 60 years so abundant you won't have to work that seventh year. In addition, he made sure that every 7 years, men and women who were forced to sell themselves into slavery due to debt were released and that their debts were canceled. They were forgiven. He also assured that every 50th year, that's the year that followed a 7 sets of 7 years, not only had the land rest and slaves released, but all the land that had been sold was returned to the original owners, the original family owners. God, in a sense, developed an economic rest, a fiscal rest, a financial reset for his nation. Now, physically, did you know that your heart rests between beats? That muscles flex and then relax when they work? And if your brain doesn't get sleep, it'll begin to function poorly and even hallucinate. Can you imagine that? The brain will be forced to actually reassign its workload to unused parts of the brain just to cope with mental fatigue, and that slows down your ability to think. Japanese researchers have discovered a high instance of heart disease among people who are in a chronic state of exhaustion. So here's a shocker. Are you ready? Rest is not only important physically, rest is a spiritual reality, it's a spiritual discipline. Rest proves that you trust God. A rhythm of rest reveals that you believe that you will outperform someone in 6 days in what takes them 7 days to accomplish. Do you believe that? Do you believe that if you honor God with resting for yourself, your team, that He'll actually create you and make you more productive? So, what's your rest coefficient? On a scale of 1 to 10, is it a 3 where you really don't trust God to compensate you for rest? Or is it more like an 8 or a 9 where you're excited to rest and to take time and trust God and see Him multiply your productivity as you trust Him and create a God honoring system of rest, a rhythm of rest for yourself and for the people you work around you? I have to say that when I was in the toy industry, I seldom had my employees work weekends. I just wouldn't allow it. I wanted to protect their home time and their rest. And we were often told by more than dozens and dozens of our clients that we often showed them better and more concepts than our larger competitors. Can you imagine that? That's God honoring our desire to make sure rest was a rhythm with our people. So give yourself a rest test. Over the next few months, work in a rhythm of rest into your office or your workplace. Watch your productivity metrics. Do they improve? Are there less mistakes, errors, or accidents? I bet you that's what you'll find. Is there less relational friction, miscommunication, and irritability? Do you see the energy levels of your staff increase and anxiety, depression, and frustration decrease? Has your organization become more efficient? I believe that's exactly what you'll find if you trust God to incorporate a rhythm of rest in your own personal life, in your professional life, and among the people on your staff, your teams, your co-workers, your employees. Two final thoughts before we stop talking about rest. Rest is definitely a rhythm that's designed by God, so make it a rhythm in your life. Second, there will be seasons when rest is just not an option. It's just the way it is. However, and this is a big however, if rest consistently is not a rhythm in you or your staff or your business, it's not only physically unhealthy, it may also be a sign of your spiritual illness as well. So, last thing, get out there and rest. Enjoy the good weather. Kick back a little bit. Make sure that your staff, your family, your team has an opportunity to rest. Until we get together next time, work in the light.